everyone, and welcome to the Balanced Bodies Blueprint. I am your host, Vinny Russo.
And I am your co-host, Dr. Eryn Stansfield.
And we're shifting gears from all the conventional fitness narrative you hear on most fitness podcasts, as our main emphasis lies in preventative healthcare, adopting a holistic approach to nutrition, and challenging the traditional views on various fitness topics.
Our mission with this podcast is to provide you with the information you need to achieve optimal health.
Just as a quick heads up for this episode, keep in mind that there might be some rambling, there might be some long, awkward pauses, there might even be some missed context from my end and from Dr. Eryn's end, just because our daughter was with us this entire time and our attention was diverted to her. So keep that in mind with this episode. And on today's podcast, Dr. Eryn and I are going to be going over our top health trends that we feel you should carry into 2026. These are the ones that we feel like you should prioritize to make sure that you have the healthiest you in the year 2026. So I believe we both picked 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. All right, so why don't you start off with your first one, and then we'll just go back and forth, sort of like we did with the last podcast.
So I was going to lead with my controversial one that we might disagree on.
Okay.
But I won't lead with that. I'll end with that. So I'm going to lead with just a general doctor thing. I think if you are in your 20s and you are an adult and 20s and above, you should get an annual physical. There are a bunch of requirements as far as like health markers go as you age. For example, getting a colonoscopy when you're 45. But if you start going in your 20s, these will all become evident. And as long as you check in with your doctor, I know everyone does not like to go to doctors, but if you go to your doctor at least once a year, you'll get the appropriate screening test to make sure that you aren't developing a health condition that potentially could be prevented. In your 20s, we start with blood pressure, and lipid panels, that sort of thing. The doctor will listen to your heart and lungs. It's pretty simple. They might say, come back in 5 years. That's fine. Just as long as you do have a primary care doctor and you are checking in with them. And as you get older, into your 30s, 40s, you're going to start going annually. So just go get your physical done. It's a good thing. And like I said, there's a lot of preventative health maintenance screens later on as you age, especially for cancer, that can catch things earlier and potentially prevent them.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like to go because they're afraid of finding out that there is something wrong. And I think that's the worst way to look at it and the worst way to go about it. If anything, you want to catch things early. So going more often than not is probably in your best interest, especially if you do care about longevity and your health.
Definitely. And, I like the premise that there's no such thing as a longevity doctor. We're all longevity doctors. We all try to hopefully prevent major diseases in the population with the knowledge and tools available.
All right. Well, let me go into my first top priority I feel like you should be doing in terms of health trends for 2026, and that is learning to think in longer time frames. Being a nutritional coach for almost 15 years now, taking a step back and looking and seeing that most people will sabotage themselves before they even get started because their expectations are absolutely delusional, right? You're not supposed to transform your body in 30 days, right? You're not supposed to go into the gym and hit PRs every week. You're not supposed to undo the last 5 years of you not caring about yourself and your body and undo that in 12 weeks. That's not supposed to happen. So in 2026, I think it would be in your best interest to stop living mentally in these like 30 to 60 day cycles and actually start thinking in 12-month cycles. Now, if you look at like clients signing up with coaches, they hear sign up for 12 months. Like, oh my God, I got to diet for a year. No, you don't. It's not about dieting for a year. And I'll talk about that in my next health trend. But thinking about it in 12 months, think about what you could do for your body in those 12 months instead of trying to just make up for lost time or or lack of due diligence with your body over the last few years in a certain amount of time frame, like 12 weeks. It's not going to happen that way. So when you think about like longer time frames, what does that actually do for you? How can that help you? Well, for one, it's going to prevent impulse decisions. It's going to stop what I like to call the panic diet loop, because you start to diet and then you can only do it for so long because you go pretty extreme, and then you go back to normal, and then you start to gain weight again and you start to panic, so you jump back into the extremes, and you just have this cycle. It's this constant loop, and it always happens when you start to panic and then you go to extreme restrictions. It's not the way you're supposed to do it. This longer time frame will also normalize nutritional phases, which once again I will talk about in my next health trend that I feel is really, really important. These longer time frames will teach you patience, which I feel is probably the biggest superpower behind every elite transformation. Sorry, that is our daughter in the background. She's playing with her dog. But yeah, having this patience, like if you just allow things to work over time, that is where you see the best transformations. People who are like, I'm not in it for 4 weeks. I'm not in it for 4 months. I'm in it for 4 years. Like, I want to know the lifestyle. I want to live the lifestyle. That's where the best transformations happen. And then one of the last things that I think longer time frames will help you do is they help you to stop quitting every time you hit a stall or every time progress starts to slow down. And I feel that's important because you're supposed to stall. You're supposed to become stagnant. Your body's supposed to acclimate. There's supposed to be metabolic adaptation. But a lot of people don't want to deal with that, so they wind up quitting. Then they go back to normal stuff, and then once again, that panic diet happens, right? That loop happens where you start to hate the way you feel and hate the way that you look, so you go into this panic restriction, and you just go through that loop again. So what I want you to do with 2026 with this is to zoom out, and I want you to think mainly in seasons, not in weeks, because your body will change dramatically over time if you allow it to do so.
I think that goes along with the longevity talk, right? That we try to encourage longevity and what are good choices. You got to look at your entire trajectory, not just a microcosm, month or weeks, but, years. So I think that's good advice. My next one is, again, a health-related one and a controversial one probably in this administration. But I really think that people should get vaccinated. Especially, I know the pediatric schedule was just recently changed. I would follow the American Academy of Pediatrics as far as the vaccination schedule for children, not the CDC, vaccine schedule, as that was changed recently without any medical evidence to support it. I think this was more a political move. And if you are an adult and have been vaccinated for all your childhood illnesses, I still recommend those routine vaccines. Flu is really bad this year. The flu season actually lasts until sometimes the early spring. So sometimes we see it into February. So it's not too late to get your flu shot if you still want to get one. Flu this year is pretty bad. Another controversial one would be the COVID-19 vaccine as well. But all the vaccines are great. There's great evidence behind them. I would recommend them.
I would agree. There's nothing really more that I can add. I think you hit everything on the head there. I would agree. I would definitely agree to try to have that as a new health trend, especially with what we saw with measles this year. And the wild, I wouldn't say wild spread, but would you call it a wild spread? Or?
We're going to lose our measles vaccine status as far as eradicating measles in the United States here pretty soon. Yes. We've had as many cases as we have. So
it spread pretty bad, and that's due to vaccines. All right, so my next one, which I touched on a little bit in my first one, but this is to spend more time out of a diet than you do in one with nutritional phases. Okay, so instead of doing this year like you do every other year where you always diet, like you're always in a deficit, here's what you need. You need a real dieting phase where you are in a deficit. You need a real maintenance phase. You need a real metabolic capacity phase, or a feeding phase, or a refuel phase, however you want to call it. You want to have optional mini cuts when they're needed. But this has to be part of like a year-round strategy or a year-round approach. So once again, you're looking at it with a longer time frame. But the key here is to make sure that you spend more time out of a deficit than you actually do when you are in one, okay? Because when you're in a deficit year-round for 365 days in the year, that's probably the number one reason why, and I don't want to label it like with gender here, but a lot of time, a lot of females say that they're stuck and they can't lose. It's because you eat so little throughout the entire year, like you never allow any restoration. And it's hard to cut down from where you are. It actually becomes unsustainable. So I feel like that's one of the number one reasons why most people spin their wheels. It's because they never allow themselves any type of phase, right? When you look at the phases and you take a step back, you're like, all right, well, you said a maintenance phase. Well, what is the point of a maintenance phase? It's to bring your calories up, obviously, but it's also where, you could cement in specific habits, where your metabolism will actually start to stabilize, where you can look like you lift weights, right? Because you're actually feeding yourself to fuel that growth. You spend all that time in the gym, you might as well fuel it. When we look at like a metabolic capacity phase, well, what's the point of that? That's the whole point is to increase your long-term calorie ceilings. How high can you get your calories to be without you slapping on a ton of body fat? And honestly, I feel like that's probably an unsung foundation of sustained leanness, because if your calories are high and that's like your baseline, or that's your maintenance, and they're nice and high, when you go to cut calories, you're not really in crazy deficits to where it becomes unsustainable. Think about like if you work up your calories to be, let's just say for simplicity, 3,000 calories. Imagine going on vacation and allowing yourself 3 meals. 3 meals where you could just eat what you want. It's very hard to go over those 3,000 calories for the day, right? So you go on vacations and you actually, you might even lose weight. You might even tighten up a little bit because you don't hit your daily caloric intake. That's a long-term goal that I have of myself. I haven't been able to get there yet.
We've had clients though.
We've had, oh yeah, we have a ton of, well, I won't say a ton, but
there's a subset.
There's definitely a subset that is able to do that. And then when you look at like, I don't want to call it like, I guess you can. When you periodize nutrition and you do it like training, because I know that's a term used with training a lot. You got to understand that like things, just like with training, things will get more predictable. So you have less stress and you have fewer plateaus. Although you want them, you do want some stagnancy, you do want some plateaus, but you go into it anticipating them. And then you can make adjustments with obviously collected data and the right mindset to be able to be like, hey, like this is what's going to happen. This is what I have to do. So having those phases, it's like, it's allowing your body to recover. All right. You're not always in a deficit. You allow your body to recover. You have a great strategy, and it also forces you to go back to my initial trend that I want you to have, thinking long term. You can't do nutritional phases in the short term. It's got to be over a longer period of time. So it forces you to think in the long term.
All right. So
nothing to say about that one?
No, nothing to say about
Why
that.
Why not? Were you paying attention?
I was paying attention. Well, I was kind of paying attention. We have a baby that we're watching. So my last trend might be the controversial one for you, because I know you've done a podcast about it. And I think you called it lifting snacking or something with snacking. But this year has been really tough with having a newborn and trying to get my own training sessions in, and obviously Vinny's trying to train as well. And so I have resorted to having very short lifting sessions. And for me, the goal is just consistency. So I think I'm going to say microdosing resistance training. As long as you are consistent with resistance training, I think that's important. I know how important it is for me as, a woman in my 40s. I want to maintain at least the muscle mass I have. I'd like to gain ideally, but at least I'm doing some kind of maintenance and not doing resistance training.
So I'm not against that at all. I basically said that if you're looking to progress, that is not the way to do it because you won't be able to. So you said a key word there, which was maintenance. If you're looking to maintain because it's the only thing you can do, then yes, it's great. If you're just starting out and you never lifted before and you're getting into it, yes, it's great. And there you can make some progress. But for most people that are going to be doing these workout snacks or whatever you want to call it, I think it's really going to be, well, you don't have the time or maybe the energy to be able to see true progression in the gym. So what you want to do instead, you at least want to get something in. So something is better than nothing. And that's the way that I would look at it. Not so much like you should stay away from it. No, it's more or less like if you are looking to see significant progress, that's not the way to do it. So that was my thought process on it, not the other way.
Well, I would argue that maybe you can have more than maintenance. Maybe you can have some progress, especially if you haven't lifted a lot in the past 9 months because of you're pregnant. But that's just my argument, and you don't have any data to prove me otherwise.
You don't have data to prove that?
I'm going to be an N of one.
Okay, an N of one. Well, you said about not working out for a long time because you had a baby like 9 months. Yeah, that's a long time of taking off. So that would almost be like an initial newbie gains. But then once you get back to normal, you're not going to have those. You're not going to have any real progression.
We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. So then my last one, my last trend that I hope everyone brings into 2026 is having more intentional movement. And when I say movement, I'm not talking about exercise, and I'm not talking about intentional cardio. I'm talking about just intentionally moving throughout the day when you feel like you've been sitting for a while, or you realize you've been sitting a while, or you realize that you've been pretty stagnant. You need to just move around, walk around, get your steps in, because your non-exercise activity thermogenesis is something that most people overlook, especially when dieting. So when you diet, that decreases. And people don't even realize it, whether they're fidgeting, whether they're blinking, whatever it is, it'll start to slow down. And that's just part of your body with metabolic adaptation. So when we look at trying to increase our NEAT, or intentionally doing it because we have to pay attention to it, it's like, all right, well, I realize that like if I'm dieting down and I have less calories and I don't really want to get these steps in, forcing myself intentionally to get those steps is going to work in my benefit. Because your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, it is the largest controllable component of your metabolism. It will have the most bang for your buck, and you can control it. So when we look at, our NEAT and we look at like our dieting phase, we know, like I just said, that your unintentional movement is going to drop. It really is. And that's part of the survival mechanism. So what you need to do is you need to intentionally increase it during those phases. Okay? When you don't intentionally increase it during those phases, what happens is your fat loss or the progress will slow over time. And that might put you in that panic mode, right? We don't want to hit that panic mode. It's part of the long-term outlook, health trend that I want you to bring in this year. I'm sorry, it's very hard to pay attention watching my baby walk around. Trying to talk and watch this at the same time. And then when we look at the overall aspect of NEAT, and one of my favorite things to do with my clients is like, hey, look, I need you to get your steps in. We always track steps. We always do power walks throughout the day, but I'm like, why don't we kill a few birds with one stone? And why don't we power walk after we eat, right? Go out and get some steps after you eat. Why? Well, it's going to help regulate your blood sugar. It's going to help improve digestion. And it might even help with some insulin sensitivity. It might even help with your mood by getting outside. So there's a bunch of benefits that you could get by just intentionally moving around. What I want you to do is don't look at this and be like, oh, I have to hit 10,000 steps a day because Vinny said, I have to intentionally move around. No, that 10,000 steps is just some arbitrary number some person made up. And it's a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. Look at your daily step. If you don't know your step count now, start tracking. Track it for a week. See where you average out. Wherever you average out, that's your new goal that you're going to hit. When it becomes easy to hit, then you're going to increase. And when you start to diet down a little bit and you feel like it's getting difficult, increase it, right? Because everything else is starting to slow down too. So you increase that number. You can increase it by 500 steps. You can increase it by 1,000. But also, remember, keep your goals realistic. Don't go crazy with your unrealistic expectations. So make sure you protect your NEAT just like it's your paycheck for 2026. So on behalf of Balanced Bodies, we just want to say thank you for joining us on this episode of the Balanced Bodies Blueprint.
We are committed to bringing valuable content. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd greatly appreciate it if you can take a moment and like it and leave a 5-star review.
On Apple, just go to the show, scroll down to the bottom and rate it there. If you're on Spotify, go to the show's page, click the 3 dots, and you can rate it there as well.
And if you believe in the power of knowledge, share this episode on your social media to try and get the information out there to as many people as possible.
And as you navigate your own path towards better health, remember that Balanced Bodies is forever in your corner. See you all next week.
The podcast content may include discussions of medical topics and health-related information. However, the information provided should not be considered exhaustive or complete, and it should not be relied upon as a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment.